See, that's one of the challenges with being happy when you read is that you have to also be happy with the inventory. Hi, readers, it's Lori. I am really taking what is referred to as a fearless inventory, and I am in no way mocking people who are taking a fearless inventory because of addiction. I just want to be clear. I also, though, feel sometimes like I have an addiction to collecting books, which is where this is coming from. I mean, I think there is a legitimate addiction to, you know, to hoarding things. Is that me? I don't know. But I just had the realization that in the month of October, I hauled an inordinate amount of Kindle books that I purchased. So not on Kindle Unlimited, but that I purchased. And the only excuse that I can give you for this is that old excuse that apparently my grandmother, the one I never met, had when she would acquire things. She would say, but it was only 10 cents, or it was only 5 cents, or it was only 50 cents. That's kind of what happened with me with these Kindle books. And then there was also one that I bought by mistake, which you will laugh about maybe if you have heard this story, or if you uh, want to hear the story, I'll briefly tell you what that is. So let's get started with the Kindle book haul for the month of October. Cheers. All right. So these are ebooks that I purchased rather than anything that I might have borrowed from the library too. And I did get one Kindle Unlimited, which I may or may not talk about today. One of the problems I had with this whole situation is that it was also Prime Days in October. And so they had a number of digital deals on Prime Days, and I just got completely sucked in. I really, really did. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. This has a beautiful, vibrant cover. And of course, it's a book about books. And you know, I love a book about books. This book is kind of they're billing it kind of as a summer read, but I think you could probably read it any time of the year. But there is a widower named Mukesh who lives in Wembley, and he's struggling after losing his wife, and he has a granddaughter, Priya, who is really kind of isolated after the death of his wife. And so she's, not engaging with him as much as she had before. Then fast forward to Alicia, who is a teenager working at her local library and enjoying this experience for the summer. And when she puts back a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, she discovers that there is a reading list tucked into the book, and it is a list of books that she hasn't read. So she begins to read down the list of books, and the experience of reading each of these books, and I think they're classics, but I'm not certain, takes her away from the challenges of her everyday life as a teenager in her current situation. And I think as I remember, her situation is somewhat painful. So she really needs this escape, and what the synopsis calls as the magic that each book, brings forward. So Mukesh comes into the library and he's looking for something for his beloved granddaughter Priya, and Alicia presses the reading list into his hands. And together, the fiction on that list helps both Mukesh and his granddaughter reconnect with each other and reconnect with the love of reading, and of course, kind of, distance themselves a little bit from the grief of their real realities and in life. So this sounds fantastic, right? And it was just, I don't know, a couple of dollars, 99 cents. It was super cheap. So I'm happy that I got it. The next one I acquired, I had been looking at for a time and just never picked it up, but it's called Murder at Malin Hall, and it is a Phillida Bright murder mystery, book number 1, written by Colleen Cambridge. You all know that I love Agatha Christie. And so, of course, when this came into my purview a while ago, I thought, oh, I've got to read this. This is book one of three in a series, apparently. I don't know if any of the others are out yet. I only owned the first one. I wasn't going to purchase all of them unless, this one turned out to be good. So this follows a woman who's a housekeeper. Philida Bright is a housekeeper at Malin Hall, and Malin Hall is the home of Max Malin, whose wife is Agatha Christie. So she is determined to solve this case of murder, which happens, I think, inside of Malin Hall. And you can imagine that this is going to have some Agatha Christie vibes, and it just sounds cute. And most people that I have seen who've talked about it enjoyed it. And again, it was just a couple of dollars. So that one's mine too. Here's the one I bought by mistake. I went in because I saw that a couple of Paul Tremblay's that I really like were on sale. And I accidentally clicked The Cabin at the End of the World instead of clicking the one that I wanted. And you all know, if you watched me talk about this book a couple of times, that it wasn't my favorite. Indeed, I was really struggling with it, and I have not watched the movie. I did, I think, at one point say, I don't know if I said it here on the YouTubes or if I said it to someone in my family or a friend, but I was curious if I read it again, would I think of it differently? And so I guess now I'm going to have the opportunity to do that, because once you click purchase on an ebook, you can't take it back. I don't think, but I tried and it didn't look like you could. Anyway, this one is about a family, two men who are married, and they have a small young girl, and they go away to a cabin in the woods. And then someone shows up and starts talking to the little girl on the lawn. And it's an interesting, weird conversation. And he's not aggressive or mean in any way, but he's definitely a surprise to her and to these two men. And then some other people start to appear. They may or may not have something sinister going on. And I don't want to say too much because I really feel like you should go into this somewhat blind, but it was a ride. There's no question it was a ride. The one that I meant to click was Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. I read this from my library physically. I had a physical copy when it first came out, and I really enjoyed this one. This one was propulsive, and it was challenging to read because of its setting and content. And it came out in July of 2020. My sense is, and I haven't really investigated this, but my sense is, hello, Winifred. My sense is that this was not planned, that he didn't write this quickly after the pandemic started, because that would have been almost impossible, right, to get it written and published. So he must have been writing this before the pandemic. This one, though, is about a rabies virus that has taken over and is starting to infect tons of people. And a doctor is concerned because her patient, Natalie, is pregnant, and she is concerned about getting the virus and how to be safe. And her husband was killed, and he was attacked by someone who had the virus. So the virus also creates violence and havoc in the streets. And so Natalie is trying now to, keep herself safe and to get to the hospital as quickly as she can. You can imagine the hospital is also filled with people who are infected. So this is quite an end of the world kind of read, apocalyptic horror, I guess, would be the best way to describe this. And I was turning page after page after page. I couldn't read it fast enough. And so I might get a physical copy of it one day, because again, Paul Tremblay is kind of hit and miss for me, but this one, it was a hit. I just haven't. But when it was $1 or something, I got it. And the last one that I got that's mine forever, and I'll talk about a couple of the Kindle Unlimiteds. The last one that I got was one of the Amazon First Reads. If you are a member of Amazon Prime, you are able to each month choose one of their what they call first reads for you to take a look at before they go out to the public for free. And so you can usually get one, sometimes two. I think maybe it's always two. I don't know. But this time I just got one, and that's The Spy Coast by Tess Gerritsen. I've never read anything by Tess Gerritsen. This is the first book in the Martini Club book series, which is I think a series of 2. So that made me happy because I would like to knock it into a series of 50 at this point where I am in acquiring all these books. But it really sounded like something I would love. So the main character's name is, let me think of it, Maggie Bird, and she lives in Purity, Maine, which is such a fun name for a city. Is there such a thing as Purity, Maine? Some of you who live in that area tell me, because that's quite fun. I will look it up though as well. Anyway, Maggie is just trying to live her life and, and sort of retired as a CIA agent and really just, happily trying to carry forward in the sort of the drifts of Maine, I guess. And there's a body found in her driveway. And she's pretty sure that that's a message that someone left a dead person in her driveway and found her. And so she enlists the help of her former CIA, agents, partners. They have groups of people that work in the same, kinds of areas. And so they stay connected. She asks for their help, and they end up being called the Martini Club. And then they, of course, do try to investigate this crime and who is behind it. And it just sounded great to me. So that one was free for me. Obviously I have all kinds of reasons why this happened, right? So just go with it. Then I also picked up a Kindle Unlimited copy of Divine Rivals, which I just recently purchased, as you may have seen when I went to DC and met up with my friend Sarah, who highly recommended it. So I do have a physical copy, but I also sometimes like to do a read of both physical and digital, or physical and both audio, that I do. So Rebecca Ross's Divine Rivals is book 1. I think that's also a 2-book series, if I remember correctly. And that series is called The Letters of Enchantment, if I also remember correctly. So I don't want to give away a whole lot of this, except that there are 2 journalists, a girl and a boy, and they are discovering some information, and it is a fantasy, kind of speculative, but mostly fantasy, I would say. And I think it's young adult. And that's fine. I don't read a lot of YA, but I'm open to it. And so, this one is for me it's on Kindle Unlimited until I decide to read it. And then another one that I've really wanted to start and talk about a series of 50. Here's where we are going to depart from this, couple of book series thing that I got going on. Still Life, which is a Chief Inspector Gamache novel written by Louise Penny. It is book 1 in a current series of 18. Also, doing me no good is all of the people who say the first 1 to 3 books aren't that great. You just have to stick with it. Okay. But I do have family members who love this, and I am considering a concept video around those family members. And so when I saw that this was a Kindle Unlimited choice, I did snag it. So I currently have that. I don't know a lot about this book and these characters, except that there is a continuity around this inspector and crimes that happen in what I think is a small community in Canada. It's not unlike, I think, Miss Marple's little town of St. Mary Mead. I think, a lot of murders happen in St. Mary Mead, and it was seemingly a small town of, lovely people who made tea and were great friends. But so I think this one may be the same, but I would like to start this series, I think. And would I get past the first 3 or 4? I don't know. God, see, it's overwhelming. It is absolutely overwhelming what happens when you acquire this many books. And so I did start to purge a couple of digital titles that I had borrowed on Kindle Unlimited. I am looking at my actual physical inventory of books on my Kindle, discovering that some of them I don't even remember how or why I got them. There's no question that I think it's time for a purge. I have put some limits for myself for the next 2 to 3 months. I have a limit set for myself. For today, I'm just going to come clean and say, these are the books that I hauled on digital for the month of October. That's it. I just need to own it. That's it. And I need to own it and claim it. And I need to, again, take a fearless inventory and recognize what my limitations are physically, mentally, emotionally. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks for subscribing, viewing, commenting, all the things that you do to interact with me on my channel. And as always, happy reading. Bye.